Hello everybody! In this video, I'll add some new functions to the program I made in the last tutorial. Despite the title, it's not a complete scientific calculator yet. I hope to give you a general idea on how to do it, and then you can add whichever functions you prefer. Let's get started! Open your project and navigate to the form design if it's not displayed by default. Let's add the icon, if you haven't done it yet. The only reason why you should is that this way your app will look more professional. Moving on, we'll resize the form and create some space for the toggle buttons that would let us switch between simple and scientific modes. Select all the controls and move them down a little. Just like we did before, select Button from the toolbox and drag it to the form. Give the proper size and color. I will use these RGB values for a shade of blue. You can also use an image as a background if you're willing to. Modify the text color here and type Simple to indicate the mode we are in. Let's make the font bigger. I think 22 is going to be enough. The last tab index we used was 17, so the IDE automatically assigned the next available one. We'll leave it the way it is. Don't forget to change the variable name. I'll call mine btn_simple and make it public. That's all for this button. Now let's copy it and work on the one to indicate scientific mode. Of course, we'll change the text and the button size to fit it. Also, the background will be different. The color will change based on the current mode. Double-click btn simple to generate the function for the click event, and here comes the coding part. First, we'll make sure that every time this button is clicked, the color is set to the darker shade and the other button is lighter. If you chose to use RGB for the color, you have to type color.fromARGB and the 3 integers in parentheses. Otherwise, just code the color name as we did before. In fact, the RGB gives you a much more diverse spectrum of colors than if you go with the names. For the rest of the properties, we'll copy the values from the design view. Actually, this view is only used to make things easier and more visual. Instead, you can just hard code all the properties. If you want another challenge, there is an option to create a separate form for the scientific mode, but that would also consume more system resources, so I don't really know why you should do that. Alright, here we have the size that will change as we switch between the mode. This refers to the current instance of the form. We can't use our calc_form variable name here because it's basically a class name, and when we use this, we mean the exact form we're working on. Next comes the location of the buttons. First, copy and paste for btn_simple and then for the btn_scientific. We will also need the width of the text box because it will be bigger in the scientific mode to fit some additional buttons. For the clear button, only the location is going to be different. So let's create the scientific mode view. Make the form wider and copy the plus button. Like with other operations buttons, we'll change the text and the name. For this video, I've chosen to use %, square root, square, and raising to an exponent functions, but the idea is the same for whatever you decide to choose. Let's move our controls a little and get to work on the buttons. Oops, this font is a little bit too big. Let's set it to 14 instead of 22. Same for the last button. Going back to our code. On the simple view, we don't need to see these 4 buttons, but there is no need to delete them. Instead, we'll set the visible property to false. copy all the code from here and paste it for the function below that takes care of btn_scientific click event. We'll simply change the values without retyping the whole thing. In this mode, we'll need the simple button to have the light background and the scientific button the darker one. Now we'll go back and forth to the design view to retrieve all the values. The last part we'll do is write some code for button clicks and add some new cases to our switch statement. For the percent button, it's all the same with what we did in the previous video. Get the value to assign to number 1, our num1 variable. Sign is the percent, obviously, and then clear the text field and change the button color. The following function is going to be slightly different in the sense that since there is no num2, we won't be using the switch statement. Therefore, we don't need the sign variable and we'll do the calculations right in this function. We'll use some built-in functions that belong to math class. Math.round takes our extracted root and rounds it to 6 digits after the decimal point. Instead of clearing the field, we'll display the answer right away. For the next function again, there is no num2, so we'll do everything in this block. Use the built-in function that accepts our num1 and raises it to the power 2. And the last but not least, we'll take care of the exponent button. It's similar to squaring, but we'll need num2 to represent the exponent. So we'll add a case for this to the switch statement. Let's navigate there. We'll add two cases, one for percent and one for the exponent, as I just said. Make sure to type in the exact value that you assign to the sign variable. This is just the math part, giving the button its original color and of course the break keyword. This is very much like squaring. We use same built-in function that would raise the num1 to the power of num2. Now our forms look like scientific mode, but when the app is just launched, we want to see the simple view, right? So just move the buttons and the text box, of course. And then let's resize the window. That's the case where we'd rather type the size because we don't want to change the height by accident. Go back to the code and find the property in the onClick event function for the btn_simple. Apart from that, we'll set the visibility of these buttons to false. Let's try to launch it. Perfect, no errors. Since we didn't change the code that we already had, we'll really only need to test the new functions. Awesome, everything works just as it should. Let's just make 100% sure that the entire thing works, and then you can publish it to make it work like a standalone app. I explained how to do it in the previous video, so you can go back and watch it if you don't remember. Thank you for watching, and feel free to leave comments should you have any feedback. Goodbye!